How's it going, everybody? Welcome to JesseYoga. My name's Jesse. This is yoga. I'm going to be teaching a class that's going to be a little bit focusing on our legs and our quads, stretching out these areas. For me, I know especially after like a leg day at the gym, my quads usually feel pretty tight. So we'll get some hip openers in today. We'll do some hamstring stretches, some quad stretches, and I'm just going to take us through a little bit of a flow to help stretch these areas out. So feel free to follow along, and without further ado, let's start the yoga class. So take a comfortable seat on your mat, close your eyes, and just focus in on your breath. I'm going to start off class today with 3 inhales, deep inhales through our nose, and big exhale out through our mouth. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Inhale through your nose, and exhale through your mouth. Gently blink your eyes back open. Welcome. So we're going to start off class today by coming into table position, coming onto our hands and knees. Let's make sure we're nice and aligned with our wrists underneath our shoulders, our knees underneath our hips. And we're starting class off today with a little bit of cat and cow. So inhale, look up, arch your back. Exhale, round into cat. Inhale, rise up into cow, arch your back. Exhale, round that spine in, draw your navel in towards your spine, into cat. Continue this a few times with your own breath. And on your next inhale, just come to neutral. Walk your hands out a bit in front of you. Tuck your toes underneath the mat and send your hips up into downward dog. And as this is the first downward dog we're doing today, I'm just going to have us gently walk our toes, walk our feet from side to side, walking our dog a little bit, stretching out one calf, one hamstring on one side, and then the other. Just kind of do what feels good here. Inhale, look up towards your hands. Exhale, walk your feet up towards the top of your mat. And then come into a forward fold. Just relaxing here. In your forward fold, let's make sure our feet are nice and parallel with each other. Release all that tension from your neck. Maybe grab your arms onto opposite elbows to get a little bit of a deeper stretch here. And breathe. Next inhale. Come halfway up, place your hands on your shins. Exhale, forward, fold all the way back down to the ground. Inhale, rise back up. Exhale, fold all the way back down to the ground. Inhale, stretch your arms all the way up to the sky. Exhale, lower them down to heart center. Inhale, stretch your arms all the way up. Exhale, float them all the way back down to your mat. Inhale, step your feet back into downward dog. Exhale, shift forward into plank. Inhale, lower yourself onto your mat, untuck your toes. Exhale, roll your shoulders back as you come up into a low cobra, pressing the tops of your feet against your mat, pressing your hips into the mat. Exhale, come back down. Inhale, tuck your toes underneath you and push yourself back up to plank. Exhale, back into downward dog. Inhale, look up towards the top of the mat. Exhale, walk your feet all the way up to the top of the mat and come into a forward fold. Once again, taking a second to pause here, making sure our feet are nice and aligned and parallel with one another. Trying to release that tension in our head, in our neck, making sure our eyes are soft. Our next inhale, we're going to look up, come halfway up. Exhale, fold back down to the ground. Inhale, stretch your arms all the way up to the sky. Exhale, lower down to heart center. Inhale, stretch your arms all the way up. Exhale, lower your hands all the way down to the mat. Inhale, step your feet back into downward dog. On our next breath, we're going to raise our right leg up in the air. Exhale, send it right behind. Our hands coming into a kneeling lunge. Inhale, stretch your arms up towards the sky. And here we're going to take a second to pause. Finding nice alignment, I want us to sit tall or kneel tall with our pelvis underneath our shoulder blades. We're going to come into a bit of a hip flexor stretch here. So we're going to untuck our back toes. We're going to tuck our tailbone underneath us, draw that navel in towards our spine, and send our hips forward. And we should feel a nice stretch in that left hip flexor. And to get a little bit of a deeper stretch. If this is enough for you, feel free to just pause right here. Otherwise, if we want a little bit more of a stretch, we can send our arms up towards the sky, have our right arm gently grab our left wrist and gently lean over to that right side, getting a little bit of a deeper stretch into that left hip flexor. And just breathe here. Inhale, come back to center, release your hands, float them back down to the ground. Tuck your left toe underneath you and send your right foot to the back of the mat. Inhale, shift forward into plank. Exhale, lower yourself onto the ground. Plant the tops of your toes on top of the mat. On our next inhale, we're going to push ourselves up, rolling our shoulders back, coming into a low cobra. Exhale, lower back down to the ground. Inhale, push yourself to plank. Exhale, send those hips back into downward dog. Now we're going to do the other side. So lift our left leg up into the air. Exhale, step behind your arms and come into a lunge, dropping your right leg down to the ground. Untuck that right foot as you inhale and stretch your arms up towards the sky. And once again, we're going to find just that nice posture here, keeping our hips underneath our shoulder blades, nice tall and long in the torso. And once more, we're going to scoop our tailbone underneath us, squeezing our glutes and sending our hips just a little bit forward to get a nice stretch into that right hip flexor. And if it's available to you, if you're feeling like you need a little bit more of a stretch there, inhale, stretch your arms up towards the sky. Grab your right wrist with your left hand and gently lean over to that left side, getting a bit of a deeper stretch into that right hip flexor. And focus on your breath. Your next inhale, come back up to center. Exhale, lower your hands all the way down to the ground. Tuck that right foot underneath you and send your left leg
back into downward dog. From here, I'm just going to have us plant both of our knees on the mat. Bring your knees wide and your big toes together and sit your hips back into a bit of a child's pose, stretching your arms long out in front of you. We're just going to relax here. Take a few long breaths. If this is a bit much for you, we do have the option to bring a block underneath us and rest our forehead on that block if we're feeling a little bit tight. Otherwise, feel free to just take nice long breaths in child's pose right here. Enjoy this little bit of a rest. Our next inhale, we're going to rise up, walk our hands close to our legs, bring our knees nice and close together, and then coming up, sitting on our heels. And this should be a nice quad stretch. And if this is a little bit too crazy for you, if your quads are not there yet, feel free to take a block once again. Bring our legs a little bit wider and go ahead and sit on that block to kind of help bring the earth to you, just so that you can form the posture without it straining your body too much. The idea here is to try to get our bodies to form these postures without forcing it, just kind of meeting our bodies wherever they're at, and kind of being okay with that. And so if you need to sit on that block, definitely do that so that you can receive all the benefits of the pose. Just going to sit here, nice tall posture for a few breaths. Inhale, we're going to plant our hands back onto the mat, tuck our toes underneath us, send our hips back into downward dog. Inhale, stretch your right arm up towards the sky. Exhale, bring your leg behind your arms, coming into a pigeon's pose. And ideally here, we are flexing that right foot. We are trying to get our shin as parallel with the front of the mat as we comfortably can. And we're going to walk that back leg back just a bit to try to get a little bit of a deeper stretch into this front leg. And just rest your arms down onto the ground. And here, we're not relaxing in this posture. We're hugging our legs, scissoring them towards each other, so I want you to isometrically drag your left leg forward as you drag your right leg back. Tone at the core of your pelvis. And then lengthen out from that toned core, out through your spine, elongating your spine, out through the crown of your head. Trying to get nice and long here. Nice and engaged. Inhale. Come back up to your hands. Exhale. Send your legs back into downward dog. Inhale. Shift forward into plank. Exhale. Lower your torso onto the ground. Next inhale. Push yourself up into a low cobra. Squeeze your glutes. Engage your core. Press the tops of your toes against the floor. Exhale, lower back down. Tuck your toes underneath you. Exhale, push yourself up to plank. Inhale, send the hips back into downward dog. And we're going to go on to the next side. Lift your left leg up into the air. Exhale, bring it just behind your wrists as you square your pelvis, flex that left foot, bring that left shin as parallel as you can get it with the front of your mat, and walk your right leg back a little bit to get a little bit deeper into the pose as you rest your arms onto the mat. And once more here, we're going to think about isometrically drawing that right leg forward, dragging that right leg forward as we're dragging our left leg back, toning our lower abdomen and lengthening out through our torso. And enjoy the breath. Enjoy the sensations that you're feeling in this pose, however easy or challenging they may feel. Next inhale, we're going to plant those hands down onto the mat once more. Tuck our right foot underneath us, send our left leg back into downward dog. And once again, drop our knees onto the mat. And send our hips back down onto our heels. And come into an upright position. Sitting nice and tall, nice tall posture. Feeling a nice stretch in our quads. And just taking in deep, yummy breaths. On our next inhale, we're going to plant our hands back onto the mat, come into a seated position, and slowly make our way onto our backs. I like to grab my knees and gently roll down so I can easily hug my knees into my torso. And yeah, if you haven't done this already, just come into reclined, hugging your knees into your torso position. Maybe roll from side to side a bit. Point and flex your toes, whatever feels good here. Next, let's do some circles with our knees. Just drawing some circles as wide or as shallow as we want to. Whatever feels good here, and reverse it. Inhale, plant our knees onto the ground, and shift our hips up and over to the right side. Stretch your left leg out in front of you. Bring your right leg up into a square. Exhale, come into a twist, trying to get that right leg over to the left side of your mat. And ideally we're getting that right knee close to the ground, but if you are not there yet, like I am not there, feel free to use a block underneath that right leg. Getting a little bit of a stretch here. Make sure your right shoulder blade is making contact with the ground. And just breathe. Next inhale, we're going to raise that right leg up, plant it onto the ground. Plant our left leg onto the ground, shift over to the left side of your mat. Stretch that right leg straight. Once again, bring that left leg up into a 90-degree angle.
Exhale, gently twist that left leg over to the right side. Make sure your left shoulder blade is planted against the mat,
and just breathe. Inhale, raise that left leg back up. Scooch both of your hips. Use your legs to scoot your hips towards the middle of the mat. And we're going to do happy baby pose next. So send your legs up into the air. Okay, my body's making some silly noises against my mat, but it's all good. Stretch your arms up and grab the outer edges of your feet in happy baby pose. And here I want us to isometrically pull down with our fingertips as we push up against our feet, pushing up with the soles of our feet, and thinking about creating an arch in our lower back to get a little bit deeper into the stretch. Exhale, lower your feet down to the mat and bring your knees wide as you bring the soles of your feet together. Place your right arm on your belly and your left arm, your left hand on your chest. Coming into Supta Baddha Konasana, reclined bound angle pose. And just hanging out here. Relaxing, taking big yummy breaths. Taking a little bit more of a rest. So if it's comfortable for you to stay in reclined bound angle pose, stay here. Otherwise, stretch your legs out long towards the top of your mat and just come into Shavasana. Roll those shoulder blades back and down onto the mat so we're able to relax with a nice, proud chest. And whenever we're ready, plant both of our feet onto the ground. Gently roll over to the right side of our mat and take a breath here. Plant your hands on the mat and push ourselves up to a seated position. Keep your eyes nice and closed, focusing on our breath, and just find a nice tall seat right here. We're ending class today with 3 deep breaths. Once again, inhaling deeply through our nose, exhaling through our mouth. Inhaling through our nose, and exhaling through our mouth. Inhale through our nose, and exhale out through our mouth. Slowly blink your eyes back open. And thank you for practicing today. See you guys next time.